Looking for practical steps to take to achieve your ESG commitments? One source of natural gas emissions may be your pressure reducing regulator. To eliminate emissions from your regulator, you can either choose a non-vent or an outside supply regulator operated with compressed air. Either option can be purchased new or easily converted with only a few extra parts. For the non-vent conversion, see our other video on that process. If your pressure differential or pressure drop across the valve is 10 psi or less, we recommend converting to the outside supply regulator. Let's go over what you'll need to convert a standard pressure reducing regulator to operate with an outside supply of compressed air. If your regulator has been in service, we recommend also installing a repair kit. We're in a controlled environment, but if you're doing this in line, you will need to isolate and depressurize the valve first. Position the valve on the vise so that you can have access to the elbow on the upstream communication port. Using a 9/16 wrench, loosen the adjustment screw to relieve spring tension. Next, remove the pressure gauge. Then, loosen the tubing connectors from both sense line ports. Remove and discard the bonnet bolts with a 9/16 wrench. Remove the bonnet, upper spring plate, spring, lower spring plate, and spacer ring. Rotate the pilot housing to remove the tubing coming from the gauge sense line. Leave the elbow on the T and on the downstream sense line port in place. Discard the tubing that was connecting the filter body and the downstream port. Then remove the pilot housing from the upper housing. Turn the pilot housing over and use a 9/16 wrench to remove the pilot seat and diaphragm. Set aside for later use. Remove the valve body from the vise and replace it with the diaphragm plate. Place the original diaphragm housing with the T-connector over this assembly with the smooth surface facing up. Thread a 110 diaphragm on the seat extension. Then thread the seat extension into the diaphragm plate by hand and then tighten until snug. Make sure the 110 diaphragm is centered on the pilot housing. Next, place the spacer over the seat extension with the part number facing up. Put a new diaphragm housing on top, smooth side facing up. Now, thread the 110 diaphragm and the 113 pilot seat assembly into the seat extension until snug. Remove the diaphragm housing assembly from the vise and place the body back in. Place the diaphragm housing assembly on top of the upper housing. Place the spacer ring around the diaphragm. Add grease to the upper diaphragm plate. Replace the lower spring plate, spring, and upper spring plate. Then grease the top of the upper spring plate if needed. Place the bonnet on the valve body with the breather plug facing the Kimray logo. Hand start the new longer bolts, but do not tighten them all the way. Now bend and fit your tubing to connect the two elbows. Then tighten the fittings. Now you can fully tighten the bonnet bolts. Use a 9/16 wrench to install the breather plug into the lower diaphragm housing port. Face the opening down or angled. Apply Loctite to the gauge and install it on the top port of the T. Now remove the elbow from the upstream sensing port and replace it with a plug. Remove the elbow from the filter body. This will become the connection port for your outside supply. If you have any questions about any part of this conversion process, reach out to your local Kimray representative. We have several solutions available to help you meet your company's ESG goals, including electric actuators and pilots, non-vent control valves, and more. For more information, check out the website or speak with an expert at your local Kimray store or authorized distributor.